This video is for those of you who've been thinking about starting an antidepressant to treat your anxiety disorder, panic disorder, depression, but you've been afraid to start. I want to share some tips with you because I feel like it's important at this point. I was someone who was really terrified to start medication, and it took a long time for me to get to that point where I felt like I needed to take that step. And even after I decided to take that step, I still needed a lot of, hand holding to get me to the point where I am now. I am currently taking Lexapro. I am on 20 milligrams. I started low and worked my way up slowly, and I share my story on my page. I share side effects I experienced. I share tips. I share my story on like what led me to take that decision. So you can definitely check those videos out, and I will try to tag some in the caption so you can check them out. But I wanted to just share some tips that I think would help if you're at the point where you feel like you need a lot more help than you are currently receiving. The first tip is I feel like you will need to work with a mental health professional. So that could look like a therapist, that could look like a psychiatrist. You will definitely need a doctor of some sort to help you receive the medication, to actually prescribe the medication. But for example, my primary care doctor can prescribe Lexapro, but I don't have that kind of relationship where I can like meet with them often. So I have my therapist. And because my therapist is not able to prescribe, then she referred me to a psychiatrist who is the one that prescribed me the Lexapro. And also I take propranolol as needed. Now, with having the psychiatrist, I can meet, when I first started, I met with her once a month and then every 3 months. Whereas with my primary care doctor, he's not as accessible to me. So I just didn't feel that just getting medication from my primary care doctor would be sufficient for me. So what I recommend is if you're in a place where you're really terrified to start medication, then you're going to need a lot of support. And that includes the support of, mental health professionals. So that could be like, again, a therapist, a psychiatrist. So I highly recommend having that additional support in addition to your primary care doctor. Now, I really believe that you need community to be able to get through this process of starting the medication and continuing with it. So I knew that some of my friends were taking Lexapro or had taken Lexapro in the past. So that helped me feel more comfortable to try that medication first. Because I was at the point where I wanted to try something, give it a good opportunity to show me if it was going to work for me. And if not, then I was going to try something else. But I knew something was going to help me. Thankfully, it ended up being Lexapro. So I started with Lexapro because I already knew people who were taking it. So that helped me feel a sense of community because I could ask them questions. And honestly, that was one of the best things I ever did because they shared tips with me that I wouldn't have gotten from my doctor, gotten from the psychiatrist, like things that they don't really tell you because, they're there to give you medication, see how it's working for you, but they're not really going to give you that kind of support that you need when you're experiencing side effects. Like, I feel like you know what I'm talking about. There's not a lot of mental health care besides like working with a therapist, for example, or a mental health counselor. There's just not a lot of, care, attention, support for mental health. It's not treated as seriously as physical health. So anyway, my point is that it helped to supplement the support, besides my therapist, having that sense of community with friends that I knew were taking the medication also helped me feel less alone in the process. And I know that I could turn to them if I had questions, if I was feeling a certain way, they could tell me like, oh yeah, I felt this, or maybe, no, I didn't really feel this, or maybe you should try this, etc. So having that sense of community. Now, if you don't have people in your life that you can turn to, there's also online communities. So I definitely was on like Reddit, for example, joining a Lexapro subreddit, checking out the posts, asking questions. And that's another way that you can feel less alone. Now, as much as you or we, right, may not want to experience side effects. I was, again, terrified of not just side effects, but you hear just so much stuff online and I feel like a lot of the misconceptions come from people who've never even taken an antidepressant just because of things they heard, right, supposedly. So I like to hear what other people say, but like I just want to say everybody is different, and literally everybody is different. So the way that Lexapro works for some people, it may not work for others, and that's okay. My point is, don't just go by what you hear on like from one person or one post about the negatives about it, because you're going to hear a lot more negatives than you are going to hear about positives in the beginning. And so I tried to really keep myself just looking for success stories, just looking towards the positive while I was on my journey, because I just wanted to feed that optimism and enthusiasm with trying the medication versus feeding it negative thoughts, and I mean, why would you try something if you feel like it's not going to work, right? So I didn't want to start my journey like that. So I highly recommend just like not going by a few things that you hear, negative stories, because again, you're going to hear a lot of negative stories. You're going to hear a lot of people who've had like weird or rare side effects and things like that, and that's going to continue to trigger the fear. But ultimately, if you feel like you need something to help you, then you're going to have to go through the process on your own and try it and experience it, which is why I say you need to have that sense of community to help you through. That's what's going to help you sustain. That's what's going to help you keep going. So besides reading more success stories and paying attention to my body, paying attention to what side effects was I experiencing, paying attention to like what signals was my body sending me. Like you really got to treat yourself like your own kind of experiment, in the sense where you are observing yourself, you are, making notes. Obviously you do what you do the process that you feel works best for you. But for me, I just felt like it really helped me to understand that when I was experiencing a moment of like, let's say extreme thirst, it's like, okay, I don't experience that normally, so this must be a side effect. So just having that sense of, it just made me feel grounded in experiencing like the logical things that were happening to me that were outside of my norm, that I attributed to taking Lexapro. Now, one thing I will say is I went into this, even though I didn't want to experience any side effects, I don't think anyone does. I went into it understanding that let's go into this knowing that we will experience some side effects. So my I guess process was more about, let's plan ahead for side effects. So what are some common side effects? Let's say like thirst, muscle fatigue, things like that. You can check out the pinned posts on my page on TikTok, just to see like some of the tips that I've shared about managing certain side effects. If you've had a headache before, then you can manage that headache side effect, right? If you've experienced thirst before, then you can manage a thirst side effect. If you've experienced sleeplessness before, then you can manage sleeplessness side effects. You see what I'm saying? Like, these are the kinds of things that you can manage because you have experienced before in some way. You've experienced a stomach ache before. Maybe you've experienced nausea before, etc. So you can find ways to manage the side effects. And trust me when I tell you, the side effects will subside, especially if whether it's Lexapro or another medication is for you, they will subside. I'm currently on 20 milligrams. I don't experience any side effects. Actually, I experience them more on the lower doses and the higher doses. But in any case, I just wanted to share these tips with you all just to help you get to that point where you give yourself the opportunity to try, because you feel like you need it. So, go with that feeling. Do what's best for you, for your body, your mental health. And obviously check out my posts and my other videos to get more tips. And I'm here for you. Definitely reach out. I can be a part of your community for sure. Thank you guys so much for watching.